confession to make. I'm actually quite nervous about this presentation because I am at a technology conference, the CTO. So my point is that that AI success is actually not first and foremost about technology. That may get me fired in my company, and you might throw rotten tomatoes at me at the end of the presentation. But please bear with me for the next 15 minutes. So, good morning. Thank you for coming here. I work for a company called Avanade. I'm not sure if you've heard of us. We're a joint venture between Accenture and Microsoft. And the reason I'm here is that we frankly got lucky in as much as our R&D team picked up the signals around generative AI 3-4 years ago. So we've had the privilege and the luck of working with generative AI and open AI technology for the last 3 years. Loads of sort of lessons learned from about 300 projects that we've been doing during this period. And what I'll try to do for the next 15 minutes is to maybe share with you a couple of the good, the bad, and the ugly of what we ourselves have experienced during this journey, and hopefully save you a lot of pain and increase your chances of success. So, in my opinion, and in our experience, true fundamental success around generative AI is not so much about technology. I really liked the presentations this morning. There were loads of really good lessons learned around, you've got to have a COE. You've got to have a definition of what AI is in the first place. You've got to make the right balance between consume ready-made AI, customize your own, buy off the shelf. You have got to put the guardrails and principles in place, et cetera, et cetera. And I would argue that is necessary, but it is not, in our experience, sufficient for truly being successful with generative AI. So I'll share with you, what our CEO and our C-suite, but also the organizations that we've had a chance to work with and their C-suite are doing for the ones, and it's not a lot of them, who are truly deeply successful with generative AI. And it is around policies and practice. How do you put policies into actual durable practice? It is about talent and culture, and it is about value and results. And there are 3 sort of pieces of advice. If there is anything I could share with you, those would be the 3 lessons learned for you to take away. So the first one, which I believe is fundamental, it is critical, it is the fact that AI is actually more about humans than it is about technology or about data. So the organizations which truly deeply put people at the center and the focus of their AI efforts, who do not just think about generative AI as a way of cutting cost or driving automation or increasing profit or decreasing time to market, but are generally thinking about, for their people, how can generative AI be used to truly fundamentally empower them to be the best versions of themselves, to thrive at work, to thrive in their professional and personal life, to build new skills, to break down the barriers between blue-collar workers and white-collar workers, if there is such a barrier which still exists, to truly figure out how all of their people become no-collar workers, and really thinking about the organizational models needed for this. They are the ones who are most successful. And this might sound very sort of esoterical and fluffy to you, but let me give you a very, from ourselves. So we are big proponent. We're trying to make life of our own people better with regard to something as tangible, as simple, but as painful as meetings and virtual meetings. How many times do you have to attend a freaking online meeting which you don't really need to attend to be, but you attend because you're afraid of missing out what's going to be said, or it's a chaotic meeting where people discuss over each other and you're trying to make sense of what do we really agree, if anything, who has the actions, or you might be double booked and you're coming into the meeting sort of 10 minutes late and you're trying to make sense of it all. So we've piloted the Office Copilot for Teams, and I have to say it is revolutionary in terms of the difference it makes for the people. In terms of not having to attend a meeting, having an AI agent which is you're able to interact with, which is giving you the atmosphere in the meeting, if you want to read that. Is there agreement, disagreement? What are the topics discussed? What are the different opinions which are being discussed in the meeting? What is a five sentence summary of what was being discussed? And to have a clear sort of outcome around this is in 20 words or less what the meeting was about. This is what was agreed. These are the contention issues. This is what we need to do further. It might sound trivial. It is trivial, but it makes such a big difference for people. It allows me, as a quite busy person who has to wake up at very early in the morning on West Coast time to join calls with colleagues in Europe and Asia, to work and live differently, because I don't need to attend every freaking meeting which is out there. So that's a very simple example, but my main point here is truly deeply think about why are you doing AI in the first place, and what is the desired outcome rather than output, and ask yourself, should we less than could we? And truly, organizations which are human-centric, which truly put their own people at the center of this, and really have the mindset of enabling them to thrive, to become the best versions of themselves, are so much more successful than the organizations which are just looking at this as an automation or a productivity capability. The second key to success is to follow the values and to be really, really clear about the purpose. Success or luck in business may change. Economic climate may change. Technology evolves. The world around us change. But hopefully your values and the company that you work for, their values and principles are durable. And we have found that the organizations which are truly staying true to their values and principles and applying them actively in AI are successful. Because sometimes values tend up to be, just fluffy words that the CEO is talking about, that the rest of the organization sort of, okay, well, that sounds good. Maybe they remember the company's mission statement, maybe they don't. You end up using it in your annual report and, on some sort of corporate page on your .com. But organizations which are truly embedding those values in the way they operationalize AI have the North Star, which allows them to make those difficult decisions of what they should be doing rather than just what they could be doing, and to ask themselves, why are we doing this in the first place? Make this tangible to you, a very simple example. If you're a bank, maybe your most valuable the most profitable product is credit cards. And it's already, pretty easy to have artificial intelligence, which is telling you which customers are likely going to default or not pay back the money they owe. Well, with recent advances, it's actually very easy to also predict which customers are likely to not be able to pay for 2-3 months, but will eventually be able to pay 3 months from now, which gives the bank an obvious potential benefit of making a lot of money from fees during that period. Is that ethical? I would argue not, but who am I to argue? But the organizations, and there was an interesting discussion in a session yesterday around, should we be doing this? Because we could. My guidance is, look at the company values more than, what you're being sort of asked by your project manager or executive or board to do right now. Use that as the North Star, the guiding light to help you make those decisions. And I know this might sound like a platitude. I know it might sound like, okay, sort of Captain Obvious statements, but there is power in values. There is real power in values, and most organizations, values are just words. And now generative AI gives us a phenomenal opportunity to actually operationalize and make true of those values. The third key to success is to encourage organizational curiosity, but to do that with guardrails and to very frequently adjust. So in our company, we have representatives from the legal part, which are obviously very concerned with risk and intellectual property, from security, from finance, from operations, from the people side, from the technology side I'm representing there. And frankly, we did not get this right from the beginning. But what we did get right is that we iterated every second week. So we learned from our mistakes and we adjusted the guardrails and the processes and the tools, frankly, every second week until we felt that we triangulated on the right balance of risk and reward. And the key point I would like to make here is that, yes, you need a responsible AI framework. Yes, you need, policies and guidelines and so forth, but that is not enough. I fundamentally believe you need the tooling and the processes embedded in your day-to-day work to make this durable, so it doesn't rely on whoever happens to be in charge of a project or whatever mood they wake up in the morning and their current workload to make sure whether it's done or not. So to give you a practical example, the way we do it is that we're training all of our 70,000 people in AI. There is an AI academy with different paths, and actually in order to have the rights to be part of a project, you need to pass certain tests and to get a certificate that you have understood and you know the basics. And depending on what kind of project, what risk, and what your role is, there are different levels of certification which you need to take. And there is also tooling, which is, asking a project manager as part of standing up the environments and getting the project started and getting the support started to actually define the risks, to identify the right guardrails and the processes and the tooling need to be put in place for every single project. So what I'm trying to say here is that frameworks and responsible AI principles and all of that stuff is good, but unless you have a durable tooling and the process for it, and you train the organization and you ratify and certify the organization to be able to use it, it's not durable, it's not reliable, and therefore there is a high risk of failure. So in summary, this would be my 3 pieces of advice, and more than advice, I would plead with you, please, especially on the first one, because I do not feel that we as an industry we as we as technologists focus enough on people. I've heard so much about principles and theories and guidelines and architectural patterns and so forth during this conversation, during this conference, which I think is fantastic. But I would really, really implore you, please put your people first. And please think about how you can help them become the best versions of themselves. Please think about how they can thrive, how they see this as a fantastic opportunity to become enabled, to accelerate their career, to become better humans, motivated, to gain new skills, rather than just a byproduct or something that you need to manage in order to reach the outcome of, more automation, cost cutting, more sales, more revenue. That is important as well. So I'm not living in a dream world. I'm not a hippie. I work in a company which is for profit, but I don't think you can do in this case achieve durable financial success and organizational success unless you truly deeply put the people first. The second point I would make is please remember your values and the company values. They're more than just fancy words. They are and should be the North Star and the guideline upon which you build your AI strategy and your roadmap. And last but not least, encourage this organizational curiosity, which I'm sure is happening in every organization. There are loads of people who want to experiment. There is a lot of energy, there is a lot of passion, there is a lot of optimism. Encourage that, but make sure you have the guardrails in place. And as Melissa was saying, make sure that you go into this open-eyed. So thank you so much for your time. And again, if there's one final thing, please remember that AI first is to be people first. Thank you.